Uh, my name is Lynn Quat. I am the Puget Sound District Conservationist. So I actually cover Mason, Thurston, Pierce, King, and Kitsap counties, supervise my team. And Sean is one of our wonderful planners. In Thurston County, we also have three planners there, Tara, Deshelle, and Alex. So I want to do a brief overview about what the Natural Resource Conservation Service is. So we are a agency under the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And there are NRCS offices all throughout the nation. So let's see if I can go to the next slide. Who or what NRCS is. So NRCS stands for the Natural Resource Conservation Service. Like I said, we're underneath the USDA and we are non-regulatory. Our main mission is helping people help the land, and we are an agency that assists landowners on implementing voluntary conservation practices onto their property to basically treat and mitigate resource concerns that are present. We have many different programs that we can help landowners with their conservation goals, but a lot of times what we see is with completing conservation practices, it also allows for the goals of our landowners to also be met. So within Washington State, NRCS, and many other NRCS offices in the nation, we have two primary programs. But we do have two main services, and that is technical assistance. So we're paid by taxpayer money. We all pay for federal taxes, and we are there for anyone that's interested for technical assistance. Say you're like interested in learning more about your forest, or anything related to technical work. We have quite a bit of people in our team, especially in the West area, with agronomists, foresters, you name it, and wildlife biologists that can help you learn more about your land, as well as our team we're like kind of a jack of all trades. So we can help with technical assistance. Another thing we can help is with financial assistance, and that's where I said that we have two cost share programs that we primarily help people with, which we'll be talking about later today. So, like I said, technical assistance is where a planner provides with some additional technical knowledge, and you do not need to submit any paperwork to get technical assistance. It is entirely free. But with financial assistance, NRCS can help fund implementation of conservation practices. And we have many conservation practices, and we'll talk more about that later in the presentation. Our financial assistance with the current farm bill, there might be a new farm bill, but there's a cap of $450,000. And then for EQIP, which is one of our programs, and then CSP is $200,000. So you can have up to that much paid per farm bill. And farm bills typically happen every 4 years or so. Next slide. So how does NRCS financial assistance work? We provide two programs. One is the Environmental Qualities Incentive Program, EQIP, and the second is the Conservation Stewardship Program. There's a few things to know. The funds that you receive is considered as taxable income, and it's not a grant. And second, the assistance is done on a reimbursement model. And then who can you contact to get assistance from NRCS? So these are the folks for Mason County. It would be Sean McDonough, who couldn't make it, but that's his contact information there. And for Thurston County, it would be Deshelle, Tara, or Alex. and their contact information is here. And I believe Sean or I will send the slides to you all so you can have this contact information as well. And if you have any more questions, let us know. With like doing any of our cost share programs or any technical assistance, we start with creating a relationship with you as a client so that we can work through doing all of the paperwork. So there is some initial paperwork to create farm records. I know it's interesting thinking of your forest land as a farm, but how the USDA sees it, forest land is considered like it is called forest land, but you're growing trees and the health of the forest is important. So it is EQIP and CSP is applicable to forest land as well as cropland, etc. So the next part, I will be talking about NRCS program eligibility and how to apply for our NRCS programs. So how do you know if you're eligible for NRCS programs? First, in terms of forestry, you'll need to have at least 1 acre or more of capable of growing trees. I need to look into this more. This was, like I said, these are Sean's slides, but I believe that is not true anymore. It could be less, but if you have questions about that, let us know. Your adjusted gross income needs to be under $900,000 over a period of 3 years. It doesn't say that, but there is ways around that for entities and stuff like that. So if you have questions about that, let us know. That is related to your eligibility. And we work with the Farm Service Agency, which is a sister agency to do eligibility. So if you were to apply for our cost share programs, it is also like making sure that you have all of these other things to be eligible for our programs. The other part is wetland compliance and HELC, which is highly erodible land control compliance, based on the 1985 Farm Bill. There's some rules there basically that before 1980 or after 1985, there is no alteration of a wetland. Yeah, and that can go into down a lot of information, but that is one of the things that needs to be eligible for you to be eligible. And then you need to have a forest management plan. And this is only for applications that are related to forest-related conservation practices being done. There is somewhat of a loophole with the conservation stewardship program where you don't need a forest management plan, but I will talk about that a little bit more. But for EQIP, for sure, you do need a forest management plan. Okay, what if I don't have a forest management plan? Well, it is a really good idea to have one in the first place. There are a wide variety of options you have available to get a FMP forest management plan. The first one is you can work with your local conservation district like Mason and Thurston counties to see if they can help out. Second is there's an opportunity where you can get into the Wazoo coaching course where you can put together your own management plan, and that's reviewed by a DNR forester and signed off. And the third option is that you can put in an application through EQIP for a technical service provider out of our contractors to write a forest management plan. So there's a lot of options there. Okay, so now that you're eligible, what is next? So the next thing you would do is reach out to an NRCS planner. And again, that's those planners that we were just talking about, Sean, Alex, Deshelle, or Alex. And then to get a application packet and then schedule your first initial site visit. So the application packet includes 8 forms. Most of the forms, 7 out of them are for the Farm Service Agency to generate your customer records. And one of the application forms goes to the NRCS planner. and then the FSA forms goes to Will Midley, and he's out of the Puyallup office. And I'm also out of the Puyallup office as well. So though that's the forms that you need to do. It's really just establish like your records. And then once you do it once, you won't need to do it again unless you change your entity name or you need to include more customer data, etc. Yeah, and then the one application. So this is the NRCS application. It's only one page. We call it the NRCS CPA 1200. This is the first page. Basically, you'd fill out the applicant name. And typically, if you're applying as an individual, which is one of the easiest way to do it, you'd only do one person. A lot of times customers like are a couple or something like that. Choose one person, but you can choose for that other person to have signature authority. So the applicant, the date, your address, etc., the general, and then assistance requested, which would be either you want a forest management plan or you already have a forest management plan, so you'll want to do some forest conservation, for example. And then this is more of the NRCS application. You will need to create farm records or customer records with FSA. And then which programs would you be selecting? The only two programs that you all would be interested in is the EQIP program or the CSP program. So it's these two boxes here. And then you'd put in if you're applying as an entity or a individual with the tax number. So that would be either your last four digits of your social or the last four digits of the tax number of that entity. And then this is the section if you are under the historically underserved categories. They are limited resource farmer, beginning farmer, rancher, socially disadvantaged, veteran farmer. Something to note for a veteran farmer, it's within the last 10 years. And I know that is awkward and weird, but that's what the Farm Bill currently has for that. Another thing to note is that there isn't a historically underserved category for women, unfortunately. So the historically underserved categories, like I said, these are the four of them. The limited resource is related to your income, and that's the information here. And there's like a calculator you can get a link to determine that. The beginning farmer, rancher, you basically need to be not operating your forest land less than 10 years. And then socially disadvantaged is any socially disadvantaged group in the entity. So that's within the BIPOC community. And then veteran farmer rancher. So if you select any of the historically underserved categories, you will get a higher cost share payment for the reimbursement. So it'd be 90% versus the regular, the non-historically underserved would be 75%, which is still really good. I think this is still, this is the second page of the application. You choose your land type. Typically it's private land, but we do work on any of these other lands, but it needs to be operated by a private entity or a person. We don't work with government organizations. And then what is the control of the land? Is there a lease or is there a deed or evidence of land ownership? If you have been enrolled with USDA programs before, this is if you're organic, which is usually not applicable for forestry. And the primary crop type is trees or forest. And what is the primary livestock type? If you have livestock, that does give you more, a higher ranking score to get selected for funding. But I will say that most, if not all of our applications get funded every year, because we are getting quite a bit of funding through the Inflation Reduction Act and so forth. Last page here is just signing it. So that's the NRCS application. It's pretty simple. The thing that takes longer is the farm records paperwork, which is the other 7 forms. We don't do that, but we do know how, a lot of us know how to like at least kind of help. So that is something to note. Okay, so that's the application part, kind of the paperwork part. So EQIP again is the Environmental Qualities Incentives Program. EQIP is usually the first step for working with NRCS. The main goal of the program is to install initial conservation practices onto the property to treat resource concerns. Resource concerns are some things like soil quality or plant productivity and health, etc. Contracts to the EQIP program are 4 years or less and need an activity plan for each year. I mean, there could be as short as 1 year or as long as 4 years, and they only need to target a single resource concern to treat. So with payments with EQIP, as mentioned before, the financial assistance through NRCS is done on a reimbursement model. So I did say, so we pay the percentage of the cost to install a conservation practice. Those numbers are based on an economist at a regional level deciding on how much that practice would cost. And for example, we would do forest stand improvement. That would be a certain payment. And then it depends if you're a regular producer or a historically underserved producer to get the 75% or the 90% reimbursement. Typically, your planner would work with you and come up with a plan and show you what the reimbursement would be. Okay. And then payments happen after you have installed the practice. So say you choose to do forest stand improvement. So doing some thinning on in your forest. The first thing is to have the planner come out and certify the installation of the conservation practice. And if it meets all of our specifications provided at contract signing, you'll get paid for that conservation practice. The other option is you can get an advance payment only if you are an historically underserved client. This is where we pay 50% upfront to pay for materials or services. And then after you install the practice, then we'll pay the last of the 50%. Okay, so here are some typical EQIP forestry conservation practices. I was mentioning forest stand improvement. So this here we can see a very overstocked forest, and by doing the forest stand improvement, and which is practice code 666, which is our jargon about like choosing which one would apply for your forest. We often use pre-commercial thinning to reduce stand densities to desirable levels. So now you got this stand post-treatment, and it just releases the stand, giving the opportunity for a stand release in other trees and shrubs to grow, and then it also helps with fuels reduction. Another practice we do is woody residue treatment, and this is often scheduled after pre-commercial thinning where you leave woody debris behind to reduce wildfire risk. I know that sounds like it doesn't reduce it, but it does because it keeps the soil like covered, and it also provides wildlife habitat. And the techniques are you can lop and scatter, pile, chip, crush, or remove. This is some, you can see here on the right that there's some leaving some woody residue treatment. Okay, another one is tree shrub establishment. And this is basically replanting in open pockets or underplanting a stand that is understocked. So we will pay for that. And this is an example here where we have also some tubes to just protect from deer browsing or any other animals that can get to them. Um, and then along with the practice generally, the tree shrub preparation. So we also pay for the site prep, basically getting rid of any blackberries you might have or other scotch broom or invasives, and brush management and herbaceous weed treatment are also other options to just be improving the chance of successful planting. And then another practice we also find is tree shrub pruning, which is pruning and needing to basically it's often done to separate ground fuels from tree crowns and to help reduce the spread of forest pests like dwarf mistletoe, white pine blister rust, red band needle blight. Also common one is structures for wildlife. So that can look like habitat piles like this one here for wildlife to hang out in, or bird boxes here. That is an awesome practice that we always encourage clients to do. Okay, so question is EQIP right for me? So EQIP is a really good starter program for folks to learn more about NRCS. It's a lot more like us as planners can help you more steps 1 through 10. And it's a good program to introduce you to NRCS. And if you're a new landowner who might already have a forest management plan but hasn't started one, you can go through EQIP to get a forest management plan written by a technical service provider. And then if you're already established landowner who might want some older forest management, we can help you get updated and help you with some projects on your property that you might be interested in. Okay, so that was the EQIP program. I'm going to pause there because that was a lot of information before I go into the CSP program. Does anyone have questions about EQIP?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So just to clarify, if I don't have currently a forest management plan, the route that I would then take is to reach out for help from a forest planner to access help with creating a forest management plan before I would go through the EQIP program. Is that correct?
So you got a few options there. It's a good question. You can go through the EQIP program to get a forest management plan written. So we pay I think we pay $4,000 or so. And then we have a list of technical service providers that can um, write a forest management plan for you. But it's also an opportunity where you can talk to the conservation district to see if they can help you. And the last thing is you can also go through the Wazoo extension program to learn how to write your own forest management plan. Does that answer your question?
So how much typically does a forest management plan cost?
It's typically about the cost share amount or just a little bit more. We have a list of providers, and you just be working with the planner that you're interested in your county. So typically it's around the $4,000 to $5,000, and then we cost share like the majority of it.
Okay. So one could go through the EQIP program or the conservation stewardship program to secure that.
To make a forest management plan, correct. And we do have a lot of those. It's helpful because if you do the EQIP, go through EQIP program to get a forest management plan, a lot of times they will follow exactly what the NRCS is looking for. And then it would be easy to just go straight into another EQIP application to do the practices on that plan. So yeah, so you can do a couple applications afterwards that you have the plan.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to follow up on that question. So if I wanted to get together with my conservation technical support person for my county, they could also help me develop the forest management plan. Is that part of the technical?
Um,
No.
so I can't answer that for the conservation district because we don't, but it is something you can ask. It's a good question to ask Margaret and Alex.
For NRCS planners can't help write that plan. They do more of the like secondary step but we as conservation district foresters can help. It just depends on our workload and the timeline you get in.
And do we pay for that?
No, so our services are grant funded, so it's tax dollars that help us to help you guys.
Okay, and then the second thing I heard in your response to the lady's question is, we can apply for several kinds of equip funding, depending on, maybe we'll want to do noxious herbs and we want to do this and we want. So
Yeah.
it's better to break them into separate little bites.
You know, it's very dependent on your land. A lot of times I see people do it in one application, but you can do it in several small bites. And because then you can like get a taste of it, you know, and have 1 year or 2 years to work on a program with Equip. And then a lot of times, clients also have other type of land uses other than forest land. Maybe they have cropland or pasture as well, or associated ag land, or say like they have some, um, I don't know, a little garden in the back and they want help there. You can also get, you can have application there. So multiple applications can happen in a year, and then you can have applications afterwards. The only limitation is that $450,000 for equip.
Okay, and I have one more question. So I only have an acre and a half. So I have a small little project. And my project is really codependent on my neighbors. Like, do you guys work with the neighbors? You know, I think you do noxious weed eradication. And then the other side of the stream, it's just gonna come back, right? That's gonna be a waste of everybody's time and money. Or, you know, I have a neighbor who's jumping their, not wastewater, but whatever you call it, rainwater.
Oh.
Just right onto my property. So if I wanted to stop that erosion, I really need to negotiate with them. Or I'm on a salmon stream and there's a culvert that keeps the salmon from going through, but it's actually right on the property line. So and the neighbor is the one who put it in. So is there ways to work with the neighbor? I mean, are you?
So all of us are voluntary, so it requires the landowner to come to us for assistance, but you can recommend any of us to your neighbors and say, hey, these are people who can come out for free and talk to you about anything on the property. And so that's a way to kind of get it going, saying like, hey, we have these types of programs, so if they are interested in doing it or need a little bit of incentive to fix an issue, then we can talk to them about if they're eligible for the same type of program that you would be looking to apply.
So basically, it's my initiative to invite them to initiate to you. And if we see, this is a neighborhood problem, like I can't get the salmon stream back without my neighbors agreeing they want to help do that, then it's just, oh, well.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to have permission from the property owners to be help assisting or helping with
Sure,
that.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, I understand. I just thought maybe you had like a neighborhood collaboration with technical support.
Yeah, it's possible, but it would just depend on the neighborhood and everybody's agreement that, you know, we could work in a larger area, but it would, be very site specific.
And everybody has to be able to have the money to invest.
Yeah.
In order to get the reimbursement.
Right.
Later. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any more questions for equip? No, that was a really good question though. There have been examples where we have gotten a whole neighborhood to rally and create their own organ entity, and they've done big projects like that with fish passage like that. It is a huge ordeal, but it can happen. But anyways, any other questions? I'm going to move on to the CSP program if not. Okay. Okay, so the CSP program is our other programs, stands for the Conservation Stewardship Program. Um, CSP is taking the next level where you build off existing conservation efforts, whereas EQIP is the goal is to begin conservation efforts. With CSP, it is a 5-year contract, unlike EQIP, and there can be years within the contract that there's no activities planned. Once you're in the final year of the CSP contract, you're given the option to renew and for another 5 years. However, you just need to change, there needs to be more, there's an increase in eligibility requirements basically. The other difference is EQIP is the main goal is to begin conservation efforts by implementing conservation practices, while in CSP, we're implementing enhancements, which are next level versions of the practices funded in EQIP. So this is true in terms of like I would say other land uses. With forestry, it is unique where a lot of forest landowners already have a high level of forest stewardship. So I would say the program is called the Conservation Stewardship Program. We are basically awarding our landowners for a high level of conservation. And we can implement enhancements, but also practices which are in EQIP in the CSP application or contract when it becomes funded. Let's see. However, we can only implement enhancements. Okay, and we can only implement enhancements unless that practice has already happened. For example, say you did a forest thinning in the past, we can enhance that to bring it to a higher level of stewardship, if that makes sense. In EQIP, the payments for conservation practices are just given to you, reimbursed right after the practice is done. But with CSP, the payments are done annually in the fall, which is around October. Even if the practice was done earlier in the year, you get annual payments with the Conservation Stewardship Program. So every year for 5 years, you get an annual payment. And that's based on the land use type and how many resource concerns you have met at the application. So say you have, let's say you have 5 acres of forest land, and we as a planner go to your forest land and we see that you have good soil quality, which is usually the case with forests because typically you don't erode your soil. So you meet one of that soil resource concern. And then maybe you have good wildlife habitat. So that's another resource concern. So you'll need to, at application, meet 2 resource concerns at application. I think I might be getting ahead of myself on these slides, but it basically you have 2 resource concerns met application, and then you have to enhance or meet a 3rd resource concern, and that's the eligibility piece. I'll get back to that. The payments, how they work with CSP, there are 2 main payments you'll get over 5 years. The first is the activity payments, which is like the paying for like the enhancement or the conservation practice, like enhancing your thinning or putting in bird boxes, etc. And the second, as mentioned before, is the annual payment that is calculated based on what your land is at in terms of status. Each year in the CS program, you will get a minimum of $4,000 a year with no activities being installed. But you do need to have at least one activity installed in your contract. So So that means at a minimum for one CSP contract, you'll get $20,000 in the span of 5 years. It is a wonderful program. Payments are done in the fall of each year, but payments can be delayed to February of the following year if you want it to be the next tax year for your own filing of tax purposes. I mentioned the eligibility here earlier. The difference is with EQIP, you only need to identify one single resource concern versus CSP, you're given a list of a bunch of resource concerns, and the list of resource concerns for forest land and cropland will have different, they will just have different resource concerns. And you will, in order to be enrolled in the CS program, we needed to enroll all of your land in the application. So you'll need to enroll all of your forest land and any associated agricultural land and any land that is related to your forest land. You don't need to enroll your cropland. That's a loophole. You can just do your forest land and you can just do your cropland. But once all your land is enrolled, we check to make sure it meets the stewardship levels of like the resource concerns that I was talking about, and then you can move forward. So the stewardship threshold eligibility is what I was just talking about earlier. It's that you will need to meet 2 resource concerns on all land uses at the time of you applying. And then you will have to meet 3 resource concerns categories met at time of application on one of, wait, hold on, why is this reading this? So basically, after your contract, you will need to meet or exceed 1 more resource concern. So it's a total of 3 resource concerns that are met at the end of the contract. Yeah. And then you can renew your application. You'll need to let us know, and you'll need to meet 2 new resource concerns on top of what you already had in the past for the next 5 years. So what are the resource concern categories for forest land in CSP? There are 7 categories we're trying to be met on forest land. They are degraded plant condition, fire management, pest pressure, soil quality limitation, terrestrial habitat, consecrated erosion, and wind and water erosion. So you'll need to meet at least two of these at application, and then add another one for after you finish your contract. Like if you do your contract, then the 3rd one will happen. A lot of times you meet forest landowners do meet more than 2, and they would need to either bring it from not met to met or met to exceeding it to a higher level, if that makes sense. Okay, once the eligibility is met, we are checking to see if it's met, and we are going to come up with a list of enhancements for you that you can choose from. And that will just simply improve your stewardship level. Okay, and these are some typical enhancements. Now, I will note that the practices in the EQIP section can also be in a CSP contract. But this is enhancement 666, which is snags, den trees, and coarse woody debris for wildlife habitat. It's usually following a pre-commercial thinning, and it just basically is encouraging snags and habitat piles. Another one is creating structural diversity with patch openings. And so this is where the enhancement is where we would encourage patch cuts through the stand to improve diversity in open areas. And it's also to help emulate patches that would have happened with like natural disturbances like wind and fire. Another example enhancement is forest management to enhance understory vegetation. This is like generally applied to sites which have dense understories. And so the goal of the enhancement is to manage the understory to reduce risk of wildfire and promote development of plants and benefit wildlife. as you can see, we have quite a bit. And these are just some of them. And 612 is planting for carbon sequestration. So basically planting a variety of different species that would be proven to help sequester carbon for the future and encourage species diversity in your forest. Tree shrub planting for wildlife habitat. This is planting shrubs for wildlife habitat. Yeah, so those are some examples, but there is quite a bit of other ones that we have. One thing that we do, a lot of landowners do as well are bird boxes or wildlife habitat piles in their CSP. So that's an awesome thing to do as well. So, okay, is CSP right for me? Yes, it is a fantastic program for folks that have either been through the EQIP program or already have a high level stewardship on their property. And keep in mind that payments only happen once a year. And that can hold the cost of implementation and something to keep in mind that the reimbursement doesn't happen until October at the earliest. And you can move it to the next year as well. Okay, general contract information for both CSP and EQIP. So NRCS provides all the designs and specification for all the conservation activities. So your planner who you'll be working with within the NRCS will, after like doing initial site visit with you, and then you have an application with us, we will work with you throughout what we call our 9-step planning process to create designs specific to your forest. If you have a forest management plan, that's great, and that's required for EQIP, then we will be able to design that pretty quickly and easily. Or you can get, again, funded a forest management plan through our EQIP. The landowner is responsible for the implementation. And then after the implementation is when we go out to certify, and we will reimburse you with the payment that we've agreed upon before the contract was signed. And 1099 issued for all payments. This is the direct deposit form. So we'll need to collect a direct deposit form from you so we can release the funds to you once you have installed the practice to our implementation requirements and we have went out and certified. Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
I think maybe. So, so if you're gonna have, if I'm gonna have to start it on my own, the plan, because it sounded like there were people available, but it sounds like I have to actually hire the work, so you're giving us names or companies that do that will help you.
Yeah, that's right. If you go through our program, we have a list of contractors and you'll have to choose who you would like to hire. And then you'd hire them, and that's the implementation part. And then we would review your forest management plan that was written by that contractor, and then we would pay you.
Oh, so the contractor would do the forest plan, you wouldn't get it from your forester. You could do it with your.
You could do it either
Yeah,
way, yeah,
okay,
so.
yeah.
The
Work
NRCS,
through.
yeah, or
And
through
then-
us, and
yeah,
then
and then,
you're
yeah.
talking about the contractor for actually doing the work.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think that's
so,
the part that confused me a little.
Yeah, so often the service providers that NRCS works with are also forest consultants, so
Oh,
they will help with that kind of
Okay.
work.
All right.
I know DNR's got a list of contractors, and WSU has a directory of contractors on their website,
Mhm.
that you can pick from those people, but it will require you to kind of go out and get
Mhm.
information about,
Yeah.
what they do and what they work on
Uh-huh.
in order to do it. But there's also the option to do it yourself if you feel like you have that ability. So.
Or just do it with people that you find that are not.
All right.
Yeah. With just, as long as it meets for NRCS, as long as it meets that design specification they have, then
Yeah.
it can really be.
I guess I'm just afraid of, the trees living,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I will add that the NRCS planner will provide you these very specific specifications on the work that needs to be done and how it needs to be done and what it should look like.
Oh, okay.
And it's very easy to have that sent to the contractor that you're interested in working with and say, I want it to look like this.
Oh, okay.
For our specific NRCS cost share program with EQIP for forest management plans, we require that they are on our technical service provider list. And those technical service providers are contractors that know what exactly NRCS needs. And so that already eliminates that back and forth because they already do know they're trained to write forest management plans for NRCS specs and stuff like that. So that is a benefit there.
So is it CSP? Yes. That one does pay more than the other one, right? It's more expensive then, or not necessarily?
No, so with the eco program pays a lot higher payment for something like a thinning. It's a higher cost share rate for like for example the acreage in equip. But in CSP you get an annual payment for your stewardship level. And so it could be that you get paid more in CSP, but not necessarily always. Equip could potentially get you more money depending on what practices you're going to have installed.
And you can have more than one program going on, say, if you have a stream, so you can have a program going on the stream and still be doing the forest land
Yes.
stuff. Good.
Yeah, you can apply for multiple equip applications and one CSP application per like 5 years. So you can have an equip application that is for your forest. You can have an equip application for your culvert. You can have a CSP application for the entire forest land uses that you have.
And for a stream, so that works for a stream as well? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, the stream is part of your associated agricultural land or forest land. It's basically, yeah, we do a lot of habitat restoration on streams. So, yeah.
That's what I'm looking for as well.
Yeah, we can help you with that. And we have wildlife biologists and engineers that help with design for those things.
But I've been working with Joey and he's been really good.
Oh, awesome. Any other questions?
So I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to ask again, but so there is a conservation person, like the ones in the room, that are free. And maybe they need to be the ones who come and hold my hand and answer these questions. And then if you go into the equip program, you get a different planner.
You do not get a different planner. You'll get the same. So you'll have one contact depending on what county you are at. Which county are you in?
Thurston.
Thurston. Okay, so we have 3 options of planners. You'll have one planner that will be the person that helps you with any cost share programs you want, equip or CSP. And if you have a specific need to have a wildlife biologist on or like anything like that, that one planner would connect you with them and have them come out to your property for a site visit. So it kind of eliminates the too many cooks in the kitchen kind of thing.
Yeah, so that would be one planner from NRCS that's helping you with all this navigating the NRCS process, working with conservation district staff member can help facilitate getting you there and determining what options you have, if NRCS would be a good fit, and connecting you to them.
Okay, and then the NRCS planner takes over and they're the ones who design and engineer the solution and say, this is gonna cost this much to fix. And they're the ones who come and say, good, you did it. We're gonna give you what we agreed to give you, no matter how much it costs you. And then are they the same one for the CSP
Yeah, CSB, they would be the same person.
They would
be your
then say, okay, now we wanna
Yeah, I just wanna
graduate you.
continue, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, you
All
can
right.
work with the same person. For both those types of.
okay, so you guys are just the facilitators to get us into the program.
Yeah,
And in all likelihood, we'll likely continue working together with the NRCS planner. So they'll be your point person, but they might ask us for individual questions regarding forestry specifically.
Okay,
yeah, so we can help kind of simplify the back and forth a little bit, because if we've been to the property and know what it looks like, we can kind of communicate with them, like, okay, this is kind of the path that would be the best fit. And then that kind of eliminates some of the back and forth and confusion with choosing practices. So.
right, because I think I saw something else about the culvert, which was a different program. That was where they would replace the culvert with a bridge.
You might be thinking about the DNR, one of the DNR's programs is the Family Forest Fish Passage Project.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's through the DNR program, so that's separate from all of these. John might be able to touch on it, but it's actually through a different office than what he works in. But that is one to be aware of, and that would be specifically if the culvert is a fish passage barrier that's marked as a priority for removal,
So just to paraphrase again, what do you guys call?
Conservation District Forester.
Conservation District Foresters. You would come do a site visit and say, you should really do the family fish friendly bridge thing, or you should go in here, or you could do them both at the same time, or.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Okay,
I
okay.
can kind of point you down the
And there's
path.
probably other resources I don't even know about yet.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a lot out there, and that's why it can be a little bit confusing, so that's
Okay.
why we're here to
And
try to
that's
figure
what
it out.
you're experts at.
Yeah,
Okay, awesome.
My guy was up, he's been up 3 times already, and he's the planner, he gives you all the programs, and just really helpful. And he brought Alex out one day, and, he brought another forester out one time, and it's a kind of a long process. It can be long and slow. But getting people on board from the conservation doesn't seem to be really easy for me.
And so your planner is kind of above the CSRs, the conservation, these people.
No, not above, but they all work together, because
Or private, or what is your planner?
I'm not sure what he is exactly.
He's one of our staff habitat specialists.
Right, I think he's more focused on my stream, because in the habitat, there's
Yeah.
many people, they have their specialties. And they all will work with you, and he'll bring them all out. It's really, and she or she, it's just really, I think it's really interesting.
I think it'd be fascinating, I'm just
Yeah,
saying
it
that.
is, yeah. He even brought out a woman for pasture.
Yeah.
Who was assessing needs for a pasture, being able to have like animals come and feed on like invasive grass. I put up an ad for that, but I haven't gotten any luck with it.
Yes,
Maybe
the
I'm just bringing-
Here's some, sorry.
No, the conservation district were originally started kind of as more for like farmers and to assist them with like their conservation practices. Everyone's heard of the Dust Bowl, NRCS was a big thing after that, conservation districts followed. And then now, like, if you think about in Western Washington, what is one of our biggest crops? It's timber. So having like foresters, it goes hand in hand. There's other, ecosystem services, streams have a value, for restoration. So it's kind of built into that, helping our consumers, our, people in the county and our districts, for whatever natural resource, assistance that they need. So kind of view it as that. And then with this, it kind of goes hand in hand, like we would like help you, assist you. We can even sign like a paper. That means that we can specifically talk about like your property, your projects with NRCS. We can like sign that so we can like, plan without like, you there, we can plan with NRCS and work with them. So it really can help a lot and to make it a lot easier, because we do a bit of this.
So all you do, isn't it?
Yeah. Technical assistance and forest management.
All right.
do we have any more questions for Lynn?
is the best way to reach one of you on this flyer? Is that your phone number down here?
So not that flyer, but, on the agenda, we have all of our contact information.
Oh, great, thank you.
And we have business cards up there for the CDs, and we can send you anything for any of the NRCS or DNR contacts as well.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, everyone. Well, have a good night and please let us know how we can help you. All right. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone. I have to head out.
One thing that I'd like to reiterate, if you are interested in a forest management plan and don't have one, reaching out to your conservation district forester is a great place to start. Depending on our availability for work, we may be able to fit you in sooner or later. I know Margaret and I have a little bit of a wait list right now. But we can at least get you to the right person to talk to and explore what avenues are best for you. So whether that's getting that money from NRCS to work with that technical specialist provider, that private consultant to write your plan for you. DNR also has options to support you in getting a forest management plan. And I'm sure John's going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. And yes, at the Conservation District, we can write these plans depending on our availability.
Okay. John, your time to shine.
Okay. I need more to drink first. Yeah, we have coffee here if anybody.
Yeah, if anyone needs a
Please
refill,
get coffee.
snack.
Does it still
Come on.
Yeah.
I'm getting water.
Yeah, or if anyone wants a water, I can hand a couple out.
You gonna click through it for me, or do you want me to stand and
So
click through it?
you can use this.
Oh,
So
boy.
with a laser pointer, you
Yeah.
can go forward in the slide and back in the slide.
Laser pointer, whoa. Technology. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care, it's fine with me, the lighting good for everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. All right. So, everybody overloaded information at this point. Try to keep this simple. So DNR is kind of, yes, sorry, we just met today. Give you guys a little bit of backstory on the NRCS and, the conservation districts. DNR is kind of the new kid on the block, so to speak, as far as, landowner financial assistance. We call it service forestry. So that's the program that I'm officially under in DNR. Financial assistance program is within the service forestry program in DNR. Now DNR, I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, responsible for fire suppression on public and private lands. There is a regulatory arm to DNR, but we are entirely separate from that. So like our partners that spoke before me, my program, the service forestry program, is entirely non-regulatory, so. Anyway, I'm John Johnson. Just a couple pictures of me and the team. Work as a service forestry specialist. Mason, Thurston, and Kitsap counties, and then I cover little bits of the Key Pen and a little bit of Grace Harbor County, sometimes. So our financial assistance program, I've broken it out into 8 steps, roughly. We'll go through each of those quickly. But the kind of key takeaways for the whole thing is, first and foremost, it's your or the landowner's project. So the landowner takes ownership of the project. They're going to be the ones that the contract, they do contracted work, the contractor is going to work for them, not for DNR. So we kind of, the ethos really, I think, between all of our programs is kind of the same, and that it's like, we want to help you guys as much as is feasible. But we expect you to meet us halfway. So some of the legwork we're gonna have to ask you to do. We can't do any thou shalt, like shall not for neighbors or neighborhood groups or anything like that, so we can help facilitate things, same type of thing, but we gotta, some of it we leave up to you, as the landowner. Unlike NRCS's programs, we typically will fund, our maximum funding rate will be a 50% match, so not as good as their funding rates. However, there are exceptions, for persons of, with financial, hardship, that can demonstrate that, and then other sort of what we'll call environmental justice, recourse. And in such circumstances, it's actually possible to have your projects funded 100%, so you don't pay for anything. But by and large, it's gonna be a 50% match, up to 50%. The details of that we can go into more. It's non-contractual, so we just heard about equip and CSP. They call that a contract. We don't do a contract. So you can, if you decide it's not for you at any point in the process, you can opt out. No penalty, nothing like that. Granted, you know, you'll be working, if you're in the middle of working with a contractor and they've already started work and you're like, nah, quit it, you know, that's gonna be between you and them. So, but, you know, with us, we don't require a contract or anything. So it's really simple in that way. Also, another point of simplicity, which I think, you know, may make up for our 50% funding rates being sometimes a little lower. We accept people on a rolling basis, so it's first come, first served. There's no application deadline. There are no real requirements other than we require that you have at least an acre of project area. So your property should be bigger than an acre ideally, unless the whole thing is going to be in a project. But that's really all we require at this stage. Now we are a young program on the west side of the state. We started out on the east side, mostly doing a lot of thinning work for fire mitigation, wildfire mitigation. But since we've expanded the west side, take on more projects, more types of work. So we're still developing, but that's where we're at right now. The last thing here is no double dipping. So you may remember hearing about equip. You can do multiple equip projects on the same property, right? The same for us. The caveat there is that you can't do the same types of work on the same acreage. So say, I got my phone, I took some notes to translate between some of the common practices that Lynn went over. So forest stand improvement, we just call that non-commercial or pre-commercial thinning, really equivalent practices. Woody residue treatment, we call that slash abatement or slash disposal. Tree shrub establishment, we just call that planting, tree planting, with some caveats. They're not identical, but we call them equivalent. And so say you're doing woody residue treatment, you're doing some thinning with NRCS, we won't be able to help fund that on the same acreage. However, we could help fund the same kind of work. We could help fund thinning that you're not going to make money off of. So a non-commercial thinning on a different part of your property, that's totally fine. So that's a couple key takeaways.
So no double dipping between programs on the same problem, on the same project.
Not in the city, yeah.
Okay.
It has to be different acreage, basically. So, but it could be the same property, and that's all fine. So in that sense, we kind of fit in with the equip program, maybe a little bit better than with CSP. Granted, I would say we don't really have an equivalent with CSP. Ours is what I think you'll find throughout this presentation is that our program is pretty similar to equip's. It's a little bit more simplistic, but it's also a little bit faster and maybe a little bit easier to get started with and get moving. There's a little bit less, I don't know, steps involved, I'll say.
You want next slide?
Yeah, next slide, please. So first step, assessment. That's gonna consist chiefly of a remote review and a site visit, the site visit being an important component there. Remote reviews is something that I would do, or one of my colleagues would do, whoever's gonna be, working with you. And that, again, that's gonna depend, like NRCS, on just where you're at, where you live. But you'll have one of us and we'll stick with you. So typically make a phone call, you know, or you guys reach out to us. And then however you find out about us, we'll get your contact information. I like to call people. Some people like email, I'll do both, whatever you prefer. We'll touch base. I'll get things like where your property is, and then I'll find your parcel numbers and stuff like that, so you can find online. And then go in and using geographic information systems, just get an overview of where you're sitting, what your property looks like from the air. And we also have data made available through the DNR's area survey that they do, Forest Health Area Survey that they do yearly. Which can key me into like, oh, okay, there's like, whoa, it looks like they had a hit for this forest pathogen or something that might be a problem out there. And it helps me before I go out and do the site visit to kind of preload me to like, hey, it looks like you might have a root rot problem out here potentially. Is that something that you guys have seen? Yes, no? Okay, well, I'll take a look at that. And so then I'll come out, ground truth things, and then really try to get into the nitty gritties of what your goal is as a landowner, for stewardship of your forest land, which doesn't have to be strictly forest. That's a subjective term. But our practices are more limited to the forestry, I'll say, realm. And we don't really go into, strictly agriculture stuff, so to speak, or habitat stuff, which I wish we did. We have biologists granted and other experts that we can, like wildlife biologists and so forth, that we can set you up with for technical assistance. However, we don't provide any funding for habitat piles or snag creation or bird boxes or anything like that. So we're not a good fit for that type of thing, but we can help you out with getting the ball rolling, you know, and also kind of like CV folks, we try at least to be a good conduit to hook you up with the right people. So, get your goals, find what practices we offer that would help you reach, those goals, reach the end state, whatever you're trying to reach, whatever your dream of accomplishing is. And then make sure that no restrictions are getting in the way of any of that. And really, we just take that as a case by case kind of thing, with the caveat, again, we're not regulatory. We're not out to look for things to slap you on the wrist for. We can't slap you on the wrist for things. It's just not part of what we do. But yeah, if there are like financial or logistical, if it just doesn't make sense, then we'll tell you that straight. So next slide, please. And yeah, these are just some embedded documents. We're not going to go into those right now, but if we have time at the end, we can look at the nitty gritty of the process and the documents that go to that. Next slide. So that's all good. You're good to proceed to the next step, which is like beavers. So the application would be what comes next. I would send you an application, one of my colleagues. Really simple. It's just that document on the left. It's a one pager. It's just stuff like your name, your contact information, where you live, county, and then like a really quick snapshot of what you're trying to achieve. And that's really it. We ask for your signature and date, but again, it's not binding in any way. It's not a contract. It's just, that's kind of our way of starting to get, you know, some commitment from you, like demonstrating, hey, we're serious about this. We've signed an application. And then also that's how we track. That's kind of how we determine the order in which we start to see people is, like I said, first come, first serve. So, and we determine that by the date of application submittal. That's that. After that, this is about, the prescription is really, forgot the terms that Lynn put it in, but it's the design part, right? It's engineering or designing, drafting up the specifics of what needs to be done, from a sort of operational standpoint and to some degree, how it has to be done. Now with that, I'll say the subtitle here, broad, interactive, and iterative, meaning, so broad is a big one in that we have language that we'll write in, but we try to keep the language as far as like how something is done. So say you want to do some thinning. Whether that's a crew of fellows with chainsaws coming in, or a feller buncher, or some other method, we don't really care how it's done as long as it's done responsibly and in an ecologically sound manner and a legal manner, in a safe manner, hopefully. As long as it gets done to specifications that we list in the prescription that we write, that's fine. And one reason why we try to keep it broad is so that we don't kind of preempt certain contractors from doing the work. So we want to give everybody a fair shot. So for that, in the name of that, we try to keep it as inclusive as possible for how the stuff gets done. Yeah, typically also we'll have a map that will go with that. This prescription we'll give to you. And that's what interactive and iterative is about, is like we'll draft it up. I'll draft up a prescription as to what needs to get done and roughly how. I'll send it to you as the landowner for you to review. If everything looks good, you'll send it back and give me the okay. And then we'll move forward. If it doesn't, if something's not quite right, then we'll do another iteration until we get it right. Next slide. Yeah, so if that all is good to go, then I will typically leave it to the landowner to seek out bids, if they want to do it through contractors. If you want to do it yourself, there's an option for that too. So if you feel capable of doing the work, and that's something that typically I'll be out there and help assess also if something's realistic. Then that's absolutely possible. The funding rates are the same, with some caveats in that we have like an hourly funding system, which basically if you work a certain number of hours to hit the per acre caps, is how we fund things. It'll shake out to be the same, but the details of that we can touch on if people have more questions on that. But if you're going through a contractor, we'll ask that you send them the prescription that we draft up and the map. And then start having those conversations. And if you need help talking to them, if you don't feel conversational enough about some of the types of work that need to be done, or some of the forestry concepts or whatever it may be, then we can step in and help with that to help facilitate that process. But it's pretty involved. So this is an example. This is an example of a bid that we had submitted with all the details omitted, of course, privacy. Really simple. This is really all we ask for in a bid. We just ask for simple contact information of the contractor and the landowner, and then what practices are being done, how many acres for each practice, the total cost per acre of broken out by practice, and then the total project cost. So total cost of the whole thing. And then that's it, signature date. We also have a form that we can send the contractors or have you send, which is a PDF that they can input stuff in. It's already drawn up our structure of things, so that makes it easier for people. That's a kind of new thing that we developed. And then this slide is just talking about how we ask that you at least solicit 3 bids. Ideally, if you can get 3 bids, that's great, or more. But we realize that it's not always easy to get that many bids, or depending on, if you have an acre and a half, like some contractors they're not interested in working on small acreages because it's not lucrative for them, especially if they have to mobilize a lot of equipment to get out there. It's a cost for them. So that's been my experience so far. The small acreage can be tougher, to get the same types of contractors out there. So we realize that hardship and that if you do have trouble, getting the free bids, that's fine. Just as long as you get one, and demonstrate that you have attempted to get more, at least 3. And that's really simple. We just asked, you just note down who you try to contact and the date, and we should be square. Yeah, after that, if you've got the bids, and you're comfortable with the agreement or the bid that you've received and you decided on one, and you feel like you're ready to start the work, then you let somebody like me know or one of my colleagues, and then we will submit all of your documents, all the documents that we talked about to my district manager for approval. They'll give it the stamp of approval officially, and then you'll get an email that looks like this, roughly, from our program administrator, and that's your green light to start work. So that's gonna be the next slide, another beaver picture. So yeah, could get cracking on whatever the project is. So that's the green light. Yeah, and really simple after that, we'll just do, just like NRCS, we'll do a check, a compliance check, we'll call that. That's a term for that would be a cold compliance as opposed to hot compliance, meaning we're gonna go out there and check after the work is done. Typically, we won't be there. We're not gonna be there unseen as the contractor's working, kind of enforcing things or making sure that they're doing it right at the time. Just because really we just don't have capacity to do that is the main reason. So we'll just, and that's why I guess we encourage landowners to really develop a good rapport with the contractor and ideally have them out to the property and take a look in person if they're able to do that and willing to do that. I think is a good practice, to really make sure that they can do the work. They can do it well, they're comfortable with it, and all parties are happy. So yeah, generally I'll come out, I'll take a look, make sure it looks good, everything meets specification. Nothing was done that wasn't highlighted, wasn't in the prescription to be done. Granted, if extra work is done, that can be good, that can be bad. For us, we're indifferent to that really, in that say we agreed, we made a project to thin 4 acres of forest. Contract comes out, they do the work, I come out and check it, and lo and behold, they thin 7 acres. We still will we're not gonna reimburse you for the extra 3 acres, unfortunately. That's just something that, but in my experience so far, we haven't had any real issues. And I mean, if the project's only partly complete, a lot of times it's just a conversation with the contractor. And again, we'll encourage you as the landowner to take ownership of that and have those conversations, even if they're hard conversations. But if you do need support, we are here to help facilitate that. So yeah. Oh yeah, and then another thing that we'd like to do is take before and after pictures, with your permission. Totally don't have to, it's not a requirement. We just like to highlight the successes, the success stories. So this is an example of a landowner from Thurston County that I worked with last winter, spring. We just had a bunch of, as you can see, really mature Scotch broom, overtopping their young tree seedlings, and really not giving them a chance to flourish. And we had a contractor come out and thin all that manually, or slash it manually rather. Did really excellent work. And yeah, everybody was pretty happy. You can't really see it, but there is a lot of regeneration in there that's ready to take off. Yeah, that was kind of a success story. As you guys, some of you may know, Scotch broom will keep coming back. So The good thing now that we have is, most of our practices are like a one and done. We'll fund it one time in a 15-year period, and that's it. But for what we call brush control, we recently got approval to fund it 3 times, up to 3 times. And yeah, up to $450 per acre per treatment. So, or 50%, whichever is less. Right. So there is hope for oceans of Scotch. And then the last step is just closing things out, which, yeah, really is just making sure that, you know, I'll assess how much work actually got done. If it was partial completion, say, again, we agreed the project is 4 acres of thinning and 3.7 acres got done, that's fine. If the 3.7 acres were done well and, you know, if the end product is satisfactory, which generally we're trying to help, so we're not there to nitpick. But if it got done well enough, great, we'll get you funded for 3.7 acres, and that's how it will work. So whatever actually gets done is what you'll get reimbursed for. How you get reimbursed is we work through the office, or we work partner with the Office of Financial Management, OFM, and it's just, they have a couple simple forms that you submit. It's really just 2 forms. It's one for getting registered as a payee or vendor, as they call it, with them in their system. And then the second is optional, is if you want to be paid via direct deposit for that. Otherwise, we'll just send you a check. And that's really it. Closing the loop, not the door. Again, we try to facilitate like a longer lasting relationship, ideally, with our clients. Because like our partners here, in addition to the cost share stuff, we really specialize in technical assistance and just helping people however we can fit in. So that's it, I believe. Yeah. 2 beavers working together.
Do you see them? I know I have beavers, but I never see them.
Yeah,
Smart.
I've seen one dead and I was like,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, beavers they were hunted to near extinction, and now we're like trying to bring them back.
But you,
Building beaver dam analogs and cool stuff like that. My program doesn't do that, but their DNR has got some skin in that game, so.
that's a teaser beaver.
That's a teaser beaver. These are all teaser beavers. Sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, thanks. Any questions? You guys aren't asleep yet? Yeah.
What is your funding cycle for DNR?
Yeah, great question. So we run on a biennial funding cycle every 2 years. But how that's worked so far, and it'll run out in July 1st, I believe. And it's either the 1st or the 15th. Yeah, I'd have to get back there on that. But it's in July is when that'll end. When we're coming up on that, we'll generally try to get folks' projects closed out like a couple months in advance, because the people on the back end administratively have to process all this stuff, and it amounts to a lot of work for them. So we don't like to run up projects right till like, you know, the end of June or something. The good thing about that though is that if you do have a project that's not complete prior to the termination of a biennial cycle, we'll just pick it up right where you left off. You don't have to reapply. You don't have to do anything like that, and you'll be the top of the list basically. Like we'll have an order of active projects, and we'll do it the same way. Like whichever one started first, we'll prioritize that one first to get the ball rolling again. But also generally, if you've already got the ball rolling, you've already got a relationship with the contractor, you've already started the work, or whatever stage you're at, you're already approved through us, it'll be easy to, like, it's most of the legwork's already done, so it should be pretty straightforward. We've done that with a couple people so far and had no issues. So, like, for instance, we got somebody that's got a larger project. We've done a lot of smaller stuff so far, stages we've got. But they're trying to do like 100 acres total, or mostly thinning. They're trying to do it themselves. Like one guy, and a retired guy, and his daughter, and like very capable individuals, but it's a lot of work, to do that right. So they're biting off like 5 acre chunks through the year, give or take, and that's doable. We can do that. So we can scale up, we can scale down, whatever you guys. Yeah. Anyway.
I have a quick question. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask Department of Agriculture, what's your funding cycle?
For NRCS, so we're, with conservation districts are totally different, but the NRCS funding cycle, I believe is also 2 year, and but it ends in October. So it's the federal.
Okay, because they're federal, right?
Yeah,
It's USDA and then your state, DNR, you guys are county.
we're local, yeah, we're not county, out of the county office, but, yeah, so we're all kind of on different financial cycles a little bit, but that's part of, we all work together, so we kind of know when those start. For NRCS, the application periods are in the fall as well, so, here coming up in October is the deadline for the application for EQIP, and then, they scooched the CSP application into, early February, I believe, so that's when they have their
Yeah.
cutoffs.
So if if you are interested in the EQIP program, it is a bit too late really to start the application for this coming 2025. The next round of applications won't be until October of 2025 to get started in 2026. There is a little bit of time if CSP would be a great fit for you. The applications are due, I believe, at the beginning of January. And again, it's on this yearly cycle that you can submit your applications by.
But that's a great thing about DNR's program is one, they're not requiring a forest management plan up front.
It's,
Yeah, so that's a benefit. So, and if you have something that you want to get on right away, I'd look to them. I think both of these cost share programs can partner really well, for NRCS, they've got kind of that long-term CSP that can kind of help with that long-term stewardship, and DNR's got that faster, easier process to get you guys in the door quicker, and take care of some of those things right in front. So that they can definitely be partnered.
It might even look like using DNR's cost share program to take care of these initial forestry concerns, and taking care of that could make you eligible for that conservation stewardship program eligibility requirement.
Yeah, ideally, but it'll depend on the practice, of course.
They use, I'm sorry, somebody else had their hand up first, I'm sorry.
You had a question, and this gentleman had a question as well. Okay, sorry.
So just to paraphrase again, I have just a really small piece of forest with a river running through a ravine. So there's no way to get heavy equipment in there. Is there a cap on how much that costs? Cause I have to get contractors in there on, on ropes and trees and things like that, or.
Because of the particular difficulty of your situation.
Right.
DNR doesn't have anything like that right now. The closest we have is, we have approval to offer higher rates for people on islands, because it's harder for people to.
So your rates are kind of fixed
They're fixed.
per acre. Okay.
They're fixed per acre. They're fixed at maximums per acre.
That what?
They're per acre maximums. Those are fixed.
Okay.
But like
Right.
what it actually shakes out to be is if the rate that you get from a contractor is less than twice our rate, then we'll just pay 50% of whatever that is.
Yeah,
But
if it's twice
the caps are set. So
The caps are set. And what's the cap on an acre?
it depends on practice.
Okay.
We don't have a cap for like the whole project. We don't have a maximum.
Okay.
But it's just like, if it exceeds $10,000, it requires a higher level of approval within our agency, that type of thing.
Okay.
But it's still, still
Okay.
possible.
Thank you, John.
And for comparison, NRCS's reimbursements are also fixed depending on the practice, but there's a lot of different like individual. So it might be like pre-commercial thinning heavy with mechanical tools. That's one rate. Pre-commercial thinning heavy with manual tools. That's a different rate. And so on and so forth. So with NRCS, you get that specific rate that's already set. And with DNRs, you get 50% of the cost up to a certain cost threshold.
Yeah, it's a lot more simplistic, which has benefits and drawbacks for sure. Any other questions?
Are you, I guess I feel like the conservation district is very concerned about the property and I mean, I guess I'm not sure where come out if you just want to help people and you don't, I know you're not allowed to like report certain things, just like that, but, and ecologically, you're very green and you're, you know what I'm saying is, I'm just worried about hiring people. When I think of big machines coming in and doing all this stuff, it just kind of terrifies me.
I have like a pretty specific example. So before I worked for conservation districts, I was a private forestry consultant. So I was one of the individuals that the NRCS talked about that, okay, we could have like a private individual that's registered, could write your forest management plan, and they're gonna charge money, but it's gonna be reimbursed. I was directly connected with a landowner that had applied for DNR's cost share on their property, and they connected them and they gave them a list of, you know, accredited foresters on their list. That landowner gave me a call and they had me come out, and I was that kind of middle person because the DNR, as John was saying, they don't really take an ownership. They're trying to assist you. So then I was like, okay, you are hiring me. I'm going to take an ownership on your behalf. So I was the one that got the bids from contractors of reputable people. And I was the person that did the hot compliance. I was there behind them, making sure that they followed the prescription. They did everything that was entailed and everything was done in ecological, legal manner and whatnot. So that's a very important key. And those costs can pretty much be like built into that. So it's like when we did the bidding stuff, this can be a little bit more complicated, but like, so as the contractor, I was a contractor and I had a subcontractor pretty much who was actually doing the work. We paid them directly, and the only person you had to pay was like the forestry consultant. And so like my cost and stuff, that was like built in on the per acre because I was doing the checking, I was doing, you know, everything with them, the setting up. So that is something that can be really important with the cost shares. That's something that we recommend to landowners all the time, especially if you have over 5 acres of forest land, 10, the larger you get, having a consulting forester is huge, a private consulting forester, because they have the abilities that we don't. You know, they can tell you potentially what the value of your trees are or whatnot. They can be hiring contractors specifically. They don't have, you know, the non-competes that we do. So we can't tell you, hey, go to this contractor, they're good. We can't do that. They can though.
That's a great point. Yeah, we don't have like a short list, you know, or people that are vetted. Sometimes I'm like, I almost wish we did, but yeah, so there is, I think there's a risk that you're taking on inherently by having somebody come and do major work on your land, right?
Yeah.
And having a forestry consultant that's been around and knows the area and knows the professional landscape, the operational landscape really well, so to speak, can be really huge. So that's a really good point.
Forestry,
I never realized it.
yeah, so forestry is a really small world. And so like you don't, a lot of foresters, they're not gonna do you wrong because first off, and like landowners don't always come and go, and it's not very often that you only have one project for them if you're a consulting forester. So like you are gonna do like goodwill towards them. And they're also the type of individuals like they know the state forest practice law like the back of their hand, you know, so you know, like, you know, they are non-regulatory and whatnot, but you know, there are other situations, let's say if you then did like a timber harvest wise, whatever not, like that is like under regulatory, like a forester will help you out in pretty much every like caveat to make sure that your land is properly reforested, to tell you to take care of like invasives, to do it in an appropriate manner, make sure you know you're spraying appropriately if you choose that, you're slashing, and if you're not like running saws when it's like, you know, high fire danger and it's like hoot owl, so you can only do it to a certain time. If you have enough forest land to warrant it, having a consulting forester on like retainer and signing a contract with them is pretty, I think, a pretty vital and big deal. Because we, like I said, we can only do so much, you know, as conservation district foresters, and we can do we do everything in our power to help you. But like that big hangup is like, we can't say, yeah, use this contractor, I know them, they're vetted. Like, but when I was on the private side, I could do that, and I did that, you know, because you're trying to help out your client.
And we just don't have,
Engineer fees are reimbursed 50%.
Well, that was like a different situation, because it's not always the case, but it's like, in that case, and most like consulting foresters, they're involved with it. The price, you can kind of like build that in, so, but they can also do it separately, you know, some foresters like, hey, we're gonna have you pay the contractor directly, we did situations, and then you pay us, so then, like, the contractor's work would be 50%, but like, likely the foresters wouldn't, because it wouldn't be any of those direct activities.
Okay.
And it depends, if it's like you've worked with them in the past and other stuff, like for certain landowners, you know, if you had enough forest land, you might only charge for like the certain things and stuff like technical assistance like we do. You might just say, hey, you know, this is, we're not, the foresters aren't lawyers. So every time you talk to them, they're not gonna charge you, and if they do, you should get a different forester.
Another option, if you know, you can't hire a forester, or you're not sure even where to start on getting a forester, is there's landowner groups like the Washington Tree Farm Program or Washington Farm Forestry, and those are, you know, groups of landowners or managers, and, you know, just like all you guys, and they just, it's a group for everyone to get together, share ideas, and those folks who have done forest management before will likely have people they know and work with that they can recommend as well, so.
And which group is that?
Washington Farm Forestry would be the one to start with, I'd say.
Farm forestry.
Yeah, and there's a website, Washington Farm Forestry, or you can reach out and I can send you the information, but yeah, they usually have meetings at least a couple times a year to attend, and a lot of those groups also do tours, so you can go to other people's tree farms or forest areas and see what they're doing, like what kind of options are available even, or what some of these practices that we're talking about would look like. And you can kind of picture that on your own property that way.
Wow.
yeah, it really just, it opens you up to a network of colleagues or fellow landowners, and it's, you know, it's, I think they might charge you, I think they'll charge you some dues, maybe.
Yeah, there's a
And it's
membership
nominal fee,
but
that sounds
you know,
great.
it's not expensive. Yeah.
I mean, when you have warehouses just all around you, and I have this big piece of land and I want it to be wonderful, you know, that's my dream.
Yeah.
It's really like,
Heritage.
yeah.
And one thing we might not have mentioned enough on the conservation district side of our things is, so yes, we're here to help you for pretty much what, like, we're non-regulatory, for whatever your goals are, we're gonna do. So if you have goals of preservation, conservation, we're gonna help you down that route. If you have land that you would like to make an income off it, so we will help you down that route. So like, we have no bias inherently or whatever not, we are gonna assist you, give you like, you know, our technical expertise. So, you know, keep that in mind. So never be like, oh, but I actually do wanna like cut some of my trees, or oh, I really don't wanna, I don't know if I should contact them. We're gonna help whoever it is, you know, we're just there to kind of help you meet your goals. That's the biggest thing. Like John, you know, his presentation is like, that's the first thing we do when we talk to landowners. What are your goals for this property? You know, kind of like he was saying too, on like as a service forestry, because that's ultimately what's gonna shape any practices you do, any routes you go down. It's really what your overarching goals and objectives are.
Yeah, and that's, as Lynn, you know, brought up, that's a good that's in itself a good reason to have a forest management or a forest stewardship taxonomist plan. It's just, it helps you really put things down more concretely, like, hey, what do I want the long-term goal of this piece of land to be? You know, and that's something you can pass on to, you know, your heirs or whoever, so.
Getting up there, so I'm not gonna get it set up.
Yeah, because forestry is a long-term game.
Yeah,
You can't
no
look at it
kidding.
in like
It takes a long
human
time.
years or human cycles, you know? So if you think about it like that, forest management is incredibly important. Legacy planning, if you have a living trust, etc. Like, you know, if you want to make sure that that land is managed how you have intentions for it, you know, so they're pretty important to them.
Can help you be eligible for, well, great programs like NRCS's and also some tax breaks as well, so I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, that's something that we do on the conservation district side. So a big aspect of the forest management plans we do for people is so that it's a requirement to be like designated forest land with county for county tax purposes. You can really get a pretty decent tax break. And one of the requirements is having like, you know, a forest management plan, and we write, you know, at no cost forest management plans for people when they reach out to us. So that's something anyone here is interested in or is thinking of. Especially, we get a lot of individuals that they have to get their forest management plan updated, and the county will refer them to us. Or then also Washington State University has a list of contractors that you would pay to do it. You know, if we have availability, you know, we can do it to you for no cost.
So you're talking about property tax.
Yeah, so it's like how your land, like if you have, you know, some people have forest land, there's trees on it and stand, it's over 5 acres, that's the key, it has to be 5 contiguous acres or can be adjacent. With like, if you have a home site on it, there's a 1 acre home site exemption. So then it would mean like if you had a house on it, you need to be like 6 acres or more pretty much. You can have those like 5 acres or more as designated forest land, but there's requirements to it. You need a forest management plan, and you have to have in the plan intentions to do some kind of harvest. And that the reason why that is because the reason you get the tax break from the county is because there is a timber excise tax when you harvest timber that then they like recoup back. Generally speaking, for how much tax breaks individuals get, and how big of the properties small forest landowners have, they don't really recoup that benefit, like that money in the tax. It's more like the big dogs, you know, Weyerhaeuser or something where they will pay a pretty penny in the excise tax, so.
And you're paying, if you do any timbering, you pay an excise tax regardless of whether you're in.
Yeah, so even if
you're in DFL or if you're not, you're still paying the excise.
You have to, with the Department of Revenue, you have to, so, you know, if you have the acreage amount, you know, it's like, you know, counties are a little different, but if you have, generally speaking, the acreage to allow it, you can save a lot of money on taxes. And even if you don't have, if you have in your plan, say, I do not want there to be any mention of cutting or harvesting trees, you can also then have it designated as open space, which you would get a tax cut compared if you just had your land labeled as undeveloped, you know, or, you know, and it was just like standing there, nothing, like you'll be taxed at a higher rate than you would be with open space or designated forest land.
I don't know, mine's tax.
Yeah, open space is cool because it's pretty much the intentions, you don't need a forest management plan for it. That intention is like, you want to retain that land like in pretty much perpetuity, you want it to stay like how it is. So if it's just like forest land, you're like, okay, I want to stay as forest land, it's open.
There are, for open space is a little bit complicated, each county, because that kind of has their own like ranking system for it, so we can't really get too deep into that.
I'm getting a Mason County.
Yeah,
That's okay.
but we're coming up on the end of our time, so if there's any other questions, we can hang out and mingle a bit. But I just wanted to point out, I did put the like applications for the NRCS.
Right?
Yeah, this is more for like a reference. It'd be best practice to talk to one of us before you just send it in, so we know like what's going on out there. But it's got a lot of the, you know, especially DNR, it's got a lot of the FAQs and kind of all those details that John went over in there. And then NRCS's, you'll notice it's a pretty big packet. So Lynn was talking about, there's those other forms that go to FSA rather than the NRCS. So that includes all of those. So you kind of get a preview of what those are about, and it's got instructions on how that form would be filled out and contact for who to talk to if you're confused on any of that. But yeah, reach out if you're interested in actually applying, so we can get you going in the right direction. And you don't waste time kind of going down the wrong road.
Yeah, please reach out, even if like we were to conduct a site visit, depending on what county you're in, or if you reach out to NRCS or Service Forestry, it's still always good to reach out, because then we can put you down the right direction. Okay, you can do this. People be like, oh, don't do this, but you might eventually have to do something, and we could say, okay, maybe in 5 years, come back to this, you know. Like I said, forestry is a long-term game, so it's good to think about it
I
like that.
noticed that when I registered for this, it said you need a site visit. Not really yet.
Yeah, so that's a great point. If you registered and said you do want it, one of us is gonna reach out to you. Based on the county input, it'll be either Colin and I or Alex, or we might shoot some over to John. if that seems like the best fit. So yeah, we'll be in touch with those.
If we didn't check, should we say it now?
Yeah, you can tell us. Yeah, and if you want to sign in and just write by your name, yes, you want to visit.
We'll have this up front
We'll
here.
put this, leave it here to sign in. But yeah, thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Very good, very good, thank you.
I got business cards, but they're in my truck.
Okay, I think we got your info on the agenda. Yeah.